fitness and what kind of role does fitness play in your life?
Yeah, so my fitness journey started back when I was 17, I believe, because when I was 16, I went through the rock bottom of my life when I was 16 because I lost my mom to breast cancer. And at that time, my dad had already been in jail for 2 years. So all of a sudden, I had no parents, had a little brother who's 5 years younger than me, and just had to become an adult overnight. And fitness was the thing that gave me an opportunity to start working on myself after dealing with the eating disorders, after dealing with depression, anxiety, and grief from losing my mom. And it was when I started picking up my fitness journey in a healthy way, not through the eating disorder, when I really started taking this seriously. It was really a gateway for me to start working on myself and put that attention back onto me, because up until this point, I was busy taking care of everyone else, taking care of my brother, my mom's estate, stuff with my dad, and I didn't even know who I was. And I finally had this opportunity when I left for college and moved away from my hometown. That's when I picked up fitness because it was a way for me to start really working towards this healthy lifestyle that I wanted to live. And that led down to the 4 areas of fitness, obviously, because I realized the physical aspect is not enough for us to live a fulfilling life. So now there are the 4 areas: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And, people ask me why I call these things fitness, like emotional fitness, spiritual fitness. Like, why is that? It's because fitness to me implies that it's a constant work in progress. Like, you're not doing this once and say that you're done. This is something that I'm doing for the rest of my life. Whatever it is that I'm working on in my life, I want this to be a continuous lifestyle. And these things are a part of my life now. And it's made such a big impact.
And I remember, and that's a good point, because I remember growing up without my mother or my father and being raised by my grandmother, you realize that one, you have to grow up so much more quickly than those around you because you don't have the parental figure, and you have to be kind of that parent, especially when you have siblings, because I have a younger brother and a younger sister. And sometimes those around you don't understand the impact that it has on you, where now you have to be an adult before you're necessarily ready for like you're being the mother, the father, you're being the man of the house, the woman of the house, you're being this adult figure at 12, at 8, at 16, and we don't have the life experiences to even take that first step, but we have to learn quickly because there's other people depending on us, and there's no one similar to your situation. There's no one you could depend on with your mother. And my apologies that she passed away at, from breast cancer. Your
Thank you.
mother is away, your father is away, and here you are now at a young age saying that, you know what, I have to do this because the people that are supposed to do it there for me isn't there to do it for me. And when we initially spoke and you mentioned the four pillars, that's what intrigued me about your journey the most, right? Because you have the spiritual fitness, which I totally agree with. And I'll let you elaborate. I'm guessing you don't mean that you have to be this overly religious person. It's just, you know what, you have to be strong spiritually, you have to be strong emotionally, you have to be in control of yourself, you have to be strong mentally. With mental health awareness being so prominent, with mental health issues so rampant now, especially with the pandemic, we don't have the interaction like we did with people before. And the physical, everyone understands you, you know what, make sure your body is strong. How important are those four pillars to people, and and why is it that you started using that as part of your journey?
Yeah, I would say the 4 pillars, I started using that because it creates this embodiment of mind, body, and soul. And these 3 things are connected. And in order to create this embodiment and this balance between your mind, body, and soul, it comes down to the 4 areas: the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And that's how I came up with the 4 areas. And I know that throughout our lives, maybe we go through periods where we focus on one over the other. And what I see people doing is they like to focus on the one that they're good at. So if they're if they love going to the gym, they'll just keep on going to the gym and neglect a lot of the other areas because it's not something that they're good at, and we don't like to look at our weaknesses. But what I've found is that you're only as strong as your weakest link. So if you are going to neglect, let's say, the emotional part of your fitness, and you only focus on the other areas, eventually it catches up to you because these things are all connected. And your emotional fitness directly affects how you feel, how you show up in relationships, and these impact your life in such a big way. And I would say a really big thing for me to incorporate the 4 areas of fitness is I start my morning with them right away. I'll wake up and I make sure I get my movement in, whether that's going to the gym or going for a walk. I make sure I work on my mindset. Maybe I'll listen to a podcast or read for a while. I check in with my emotions to see how I'm feeling. And then on the spiritual side, I'll meditate, I'll connect with my soul, with my higher self. And I start my morning with these so that I can go throughout my day then in this better state than I was maybe if I didn't do it.
Isn't reading and meditating so underrated?
Yeah, especially meditation. I mean, I tell people to meditate, and a lot of people are like, why would you just sit there for 15, 20 minutes and do nothing? I could be doing something else. I could be using this time to be more productive. And that was what I thought when I first started meditating. Like, I could be more productive. But what I've found is that if you just take that 10, 15, 20 minutes to sit in silence and clear your mind, you actually end up being more productive throughout your day. You're not missing that 15, 20 minutes from your day. I'm sure we're doing a lot of other things throughout our days that are not as helpful as meditation, and we do them anyway. So when people tell me, I don't have time to meditate, I'm too busy to meditate, I say, if you're too busy, that's a sign that you should do it anyway, because when you do meditate, when you do take away that time to stop being busy, that's when you actually free up yourself.
And that's to me the point of meditation is taking that time for you, right? And that's the way I position it to myself. That's how I sold myself because what I do is I do my morning stretches, right? So every morning I wake up, I stretch, right? And then after that stretch, as I'm cooling down, for example, I'll meditate, I'll clear everything. The cell phone goes on silent, the TV's off, everything, and it's just me and my thoughts. And then I clear my thoughts, right? And I found that, well, I'm a happy person anyways, but I
Yeah.
found that I was more upbeat and I was even more in control of what I was thinking because you're learning how to control your thoughts, especially in the hustle and bustle of this life where we have so many thoughts in our head, so many images thrown at us, so many expectations put on us. It's good to take that time and just put everything to the side.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, most people nowadays, they're running around, being busy, and I love how you said it's a good way to focus on your thoughts and take control over that. Because what most people are doing right now is their thoughts are controlling them, and their mind is so busy. It is playing all of these stories, and is usually negative, and their mind is controlling their entire life. But it's when you start being the observer of your thoughts and being the observer of your mind, that's when you realize that your mind is just a tool, and you can start using your mind in a way that will benefit you more. So your mind is not all that you are. Your mind is just a tool.
Was it something because from what you told me, like I know you had a difficult childhood as well, right? And I know to me, you mentioned there was like abuse as well. Was that difficult for you to get control of? Was the mental fitness the harder of the other four, of the three for you to get a hold of?
I would say the emotional and spiritual were more difficult because my just coming from my childhood, I was abused by my dad, and there was a lot of emotional trauma there that I had to heal. And the spiritual aspect was just something that I had to take on my own because I don't think anyone in my family was ever spiritual or religious. And I mean, spirituality to me, it has nothing to do with religion. Spirituality is just a deeper dive into yourself and who you really are and finding your purpose here. And that's what spirituality is to me. And that was more difficult for me because I didn't have any role models that I could look up to for what that really means. And I had to dive into that myself. But then I realized that I mean, spirituality is such a big part of my life now because it's through spirituality I overcame so many of my other traumas. Because when you start connecting with with the universe, with love, with something that is way bigger than yourself and way bigger than your ego, then you start realizing what we're really here to do. Because we're not just here to pay bills, to lose weight, to entertain ourselves. We're here for a way bigger purpose.
What do you think your purpose is? And if you know what it is, how are you fulfilling it?
That's a good question because people ask me that all the time. How did you find your purpose when you're 20? And I you know, I used to think that my purpose had to be this big thing, and I used to think my purpose is here to help everyone, to change the world, and that's why I started my business, and that's why I do a lot of things that I do. But then as I dive deeper into myself, I realized that your purpose doesn't have to be this huge thing. It doesn't have to be, "Oh, I'm here to change the world, and I'm here to make this huge impact." So nowadays, my purpose is just to be in this moment right now, and this is my purpose right now, to be here and be here fully. It's not that, I'm sitting here doing this podcast and my mind is wandering somewhere else thinking of what's the next thing that I'm doing because I'm so focused on achieving this huge purpose. No, my purpose right now in this moment is to be here and do this podcast and show up 100%. And my purpose in the next moment after I get off this podcast, it could be different. But what I'm doing is I am fully present in each moment and I'm fully here. I'm not one foot in, one foot out with doing everything. It's I do this one thing to my fullest capacity and then I move on. So my purpose is ever changing depending on what I'm doing.
I remember when I found what I believe my purpose was, and I made it into this complicated, grand idea, right? Um, I always felt that my purpose was to help people either get better or improve, but I built it up to this idea that I wasn't able to fulfill it because it was so grand. But to your point, once I was able to minimize it, make it reasonable, and live in that moment, that's when I started accomplishing more. And I'll go even further. Like, we're having this conversation. You're focused on me, I'm focused on you. You're delivering what your purpose is, and I believe I'm fulfilling what my purpose is. But once we part ways, you're going to fulfill your purpose in a different way outside of me, and I'm going to fulfill mine in a different way outside of you. Do you feel that sometimes people in general don't live in the moment, right? They're living for tomorrow, for next week, for next year, and that's why they miss out on goals that they can attain daily.
Yeah, I mean, coming to the realization that this present moment is all that we have. Like this was the biggest thing that changed my entire life because up until this point, even in the beginning of my business, I was constantly working for something, chasing after that success, chasing after money, chasing after love. I did all of these chasing because I thought that only if I get to that point, then I'll be fulfilled. And that's the other way that I was filling this void within myself because I didn't already feel enough. I didn't already feel fulfilled. And the irony and the irony of this whole thing is that when you're chasing after things, when you're chasing after success, thinking of that next thing, you're less likely to get it. Because when you're chasing, you're implying that you don't have it. And based on, the law of attraction, you attract that energy that you're putting out. When you have that energy of lack, that I don't have it, this is why I need to chase after it, you don't get it because you have this scarcity within you. But if you change that mentality and you say, I already have everything that I need in this moment, which you do most likely if you just look around you, this moment is is peaceful. This moment is not stressful, it's not unsafe, it's peaceful. But if you just change that mindset to, I already have everything that I need, I already feel so abundant, I already have love within my life, I have success in this moment, then it actually comes to you way easier because you're attracting that into your life based on the energy that you're putting out.
Have you reached that point in your life?
I would say things come pretty easily to me nowadays. Like, that's just my experience, and like we talk about manifestation and all of that. Like I can manifest a lot of things pretty instantly.
And how do you do that? For those listening who want to be like Maggie.
Yeah, it all comes down to your vibration, right? So we can be in a lower vibrational state or a higher vibrational state. And as you raise your own vibration, things start coming to you way more easily. And you start manifesting things way more easily when you are in control of your thoughts. So, how manifestation really works is, you're putting out this thought and you're letting that come to you because you're creating your reality. And what a lot of people are stuck doing, which I went through that period as well, is I thought that manifestation was I say that I want something and then I'm chasing after it, then I'm trying so hard to get it. But when you're so attached to that outcome, that's when it lowers your vibration. Any attachment that you have to the outcome or to anything else, it it keeps you stuck because when you're attached to that one thing, you actually don't free yourself up to experience life because you're so attached. So it's actually letting go of all of that attachment. And when you let go of everything, ironically, that's when things start coming to you because you're not attached to anything. And when you're not attached to one thing, that's when everything becomes possible. And when you actually let go of everything, that's how you can actually experience life to the fullest extent. Because when you attach yourself to one thing, you miss out on all of the other things that are happening around you.
It reminds me of that example where you have someone that has come out of a bad relationship, right? And they felt that that person was the one and they dwell on it and they're so attached to that experience that a number of better partners comes along, but they're blinded by what they think that they're missing to even see what they can have.
Right. I mean, I went through that experience too. I got out of a relationship last year, back in June, and it was this 3-year relationship. And the last year of it, I I wanted out, but I couldn't do it because I didn't think I deserved better. And it's that scarcity mentality, like this is the only person that I'm going to be with for the rest of my life. What if there's no one better out there? So I kept that relationship and dragged it on for an extra year. But when I finally got out of that relationship, I realized that the problem was never this person, right? Like, even though there were a lot of red flags, there were a lot of toxic behaviors, it was always me because I tolerated all of that. And I didn't love myself enough to walk away. And when I came up with that realization, I said, you know what? If I want something in my life, let's say I want another relationship, I can create that in my life just by realizing that I deserve it And when you declare that you deserve something, when you say that you're worthy of this relationship, of the success, of whatever it is that you want, that's when it comes to you because you believe that you deserve it. And that's how powerful your thoughts are. Whatever you believe, you're going to manifest into your reality.
Do you feel that, well, I guess my question would be, why do you think that you're tolerating a situation that you knew towards the end was something you didn't want to be a part of anymore?
From a lack of self love and a lot of childhood traumas, thinking that I didn't deserve better, which was the story that I was told over and over again in my childhood. My parents were telling me, you know, you're never good enough unless you do this. You don't deserve success or love or happiness unless you do this. So there's always a condition to that. And I think a lot of people, even this society has taught us that we're not worthy and we're not loved unless we meet certain criteria and certain expectations placed upon us, when in reality, you don't have to do anything to be loved because that's what love is. Love, real love, does not come with expectations, it does not come with conditions. And that's also a journey to loving yourself, being able to love yourself without conditions. If you're saying to yourself, I'll love myself when I lose 20 pounds, that's not love because you only love yourself when you have that version of yourself. And love does not have expectations or conditions. It has no boundaries. So you have to be able to you have to be able to love the good, the bad, the ugly, like whatever it is, and accept every single part of you, of people around you, and being able to love somebody else starts with loving yourself. Because if you don't know how to love yourself, if you're picking yourself apart and placing all these expectations and conditions upon yourself, you're also going to do it to someone else. So, what I believe personally is a lot of people are not ready for an actual healthy and fulfilling relationship because they get into a relationship with a state of not really loving themselves and expecting somebody else to fulfill that need. And that's how my relationship ended up being toxic because I expected someone else to be there to fulfill my lack of love.
See, and I love that explanation because I was telling someone, one of my employees the other day, that I get up in the morning, shower, brush my teeth, wash my face. But one thing that I do before I leave the house, like clockwork, is I look in the mirror as I'm adjusting my shirt or whatever the case is, and I would say, you know what, Terrain, you're gonna have a good day today. You know what, Terrain, I love you. Someone out there cares about you. And then I go and I ask the person if they were to do this, and they said they didn't even think about doing that. I know I did the sad face as well. And and then I went to him. I was like, why? I was like, if you don't tell yourself you love yourself, why do you expect other people to tell you that? And they didn't have an answer. Do you? So I'll turn that question to you. How is it that so many of us can't even tell ourselves that we love ourselves, but yet we expect it from everyone else but ourselves?
Because it comes down to societal conditioning. Like we've been taught over and over again to look for love outside of ourselves, to look for even money, success, whatever it is, to look for things outside. When in reality, you have to turn inward, and people don't like to do that because it takes radical responsibility to look at yourself and realize that whatever situation that you have in your life, you created it. And I, didn't want to believe that I created this toxic relationship that I was in. I just wanted to blame it on the other person, saying that, well, he did this. So, he was making my life miserable. But looking back, I made my life miserable because that's what I was willing to tolerate. And I created that situation in my head because I didn't think I deserved any better. So it takes a lot of responsibility to look at ourselves and realize that the situations that we've created in our lives it's all up to us. No one else is doing anything to us. No one else is, making our lives miserable or hurting us. It comes down to what we are doing and our expectations that we place. And I saw something this morning that said, it was a meme that I saw, and the meme was, "Who hurt you?" And the other person is like, "My own expectations." And it's so true because we think that other people are hurting us, other people are doing all of these things to us, but at the end of the day, why did they hurt us? Because we expected them to be something different. We expected them to do something different. And when they didn't meet those expectations, we feel hurt. So ultimately, it all comes down to us and being able to look at ourselves and turn inward instead of having those expectations for other people to love us. Because we have so many expectations thinking that we can get love from someone else and from something outside of ourselves, but it's all here, it's all within.
It's like when someone goes into a relationship, as you mentioned, right? And they have this long list of expectations, right? And they'll say, I'll use us as an example, right? Like we're dating, and I come with this list. Okay, Maggie has to be this, right? And within the first couple of dates, I know that the majority of the things that I want, you don't have, but yet I continue, right? And
Right.
then when it doesn't go the way that, to your point, that I expected, I'm not mad at myself, even though I knew you couldn't give me what I wanted. I'm mad at you for not giving me what I expected, even though you had no idea of my
Yeah.
expectations and my long list, right? And I think it comes down to one, responsibility, which is something a lot of us fear and a lot of us don't want to do. And it comes to accountability, saying that, you know what, Maggie's not crazy. Her and I are just not compatible because there's things that she did that I didn't like. And I'm pretty sure that there's things that I did that she didn't like. But it seems to always to be crazy to point the finger at the other person and say, men will say the girl is crazy, girls will say the man is has no use, right?
Right, right, so yeah, I mean, like, so many times in my life. I mean, I've been on dates after I got out of the relationship, and it was a lot of that back and forth of men pointing the finger saying, "Oh, women are so crazy, they're so emotional," and all of that, and then women pointing the finger saying, "Yeah, these men can't step up to who we want them to be," and ultimately it comes down to these expectations, and it's exhausting because we're constantly looking for somebody to fill our needs when in reality we're here to love ourselves, we're here to save ourselves, and the one thing that honestly makes me kind of riled up. It's like people are waiting for somebody to come save them. And I see this all the time. It's like even the clients that I work with, sometimes they'll come to me, they'll want to hire a coach, they'll want to participate in a program. They think that once they they participate in this program, all of their problems are going to go away and they stop doing the work because they think that I'm there to save them. And I tell them, no one is here to save you. You are here to save yourself. You're here to take responsibility for your own life. And, people don't like to hear that.
So what's the process you'd help as a coach? So what's the process for those people, right? When they come to you like that, and how are you helping them?
Yeah, so this is like a huge mindset shift that we have to go through because we've been taught all our lives to look for something outside to save us, and that's the biggest lie that we've been told as a society is to look for an external savior when we're here to save ourselves. And it's that huge mindset shift that we have to start doing. It's like, where are you not taking responsibility in your life? And it starts with the smallest things. Let's say you promise someone that you're gonna go to the grocery store and pick up groceries and you didn't do that, that's you breaking a promise, not just to the other person, but to yourself. And every time you break a promise, even as small as that to yourself, you lose a little bit of confidence in yourself because you lied to yourself, you broke a promise, and it starts by taking responsibility for the smallest things in our lives. When you say that you're going to do something, you'll do it. And it's not last minute you back out because you are lazy or you suddenly don't feel like doing it. You do what you said you were going to do, and by doing these small things you start building up the confidence.
And do you help your clients reach that point where they're confident enough to not only maintain their word, but do a complete shift of maybe their perception of the world and their mindset?
Yeah, so I used to work with clients one-on-one. I no longer do, but when I did work with clients one-on-one, there was obviously a lot of accountability involved in that. So, I mean, I would be checking up on them daily, saying, hey, how are you doing with this? And I think having accountability definitely helps because this is a constant practice, right? Like we talked about, you're not going to do something once and master it. And especially if it's a habit or a behavior that you've been carrying on all your life, let's say all your life you haven't been taking responsibility for yourself. It's not like you're going to do it once and change your entire life and change your entire behaviors in your life. So this takes daily practice and even moment to moment when you say that you're going to do something, you do it. And even if you don't do it, at first, be patient with yourself because this is not something that you can change in a week or even a month because you've been practicing this all your life. And it's just like anything. It takes patience, it takes consistency, it takes love for yourself because you don't just beat yourself up when you don't do it once or twice because it just makes it worse when you come from that place of thinking that you have to be perfect all the time because it's another trap in and of itself.
Absolutely. I think this strive for perfection and this strive for indescribable amounts of success does trap people, right? Because how can you truly be happy if you've made 50,000, you're like, no, I want 75. You get 75, no, I want 100, right? You're striving and you're always chasing, to use your words. And I like that you mentioned that you're chasing something that has no end. Because if you're to chase happiness, it'll be different. You can be happy with 50,000,
Right.
right? And not have the 75,000, but it all comes back to what that person wants. And I guess my next question for you, maybe as we close, is how is Maggie going to help the next generation go forward and be better?
That's a good question and a really big question. Because I mean, I'm helping the next generation and the way that I'm thinking about it, I'm helping my own generation because I'm 20 and the next generation would be like my brother's age. But I see a lot of people my age and that's the other thing though. Like that's why I dropped out of college is because I didn't feel like I fit in, and I never felt like I really fit in anyway, and it was just up until this point, I said, "I'm just gonna drop out and do my own thing," and it was the best decision I've ever made, but how I'm able to help them is nowadays I have a lot of kids, college kids my age, coming to me just, asking me, "How did you find your purpose?" And that's the question that I get all the time because now they're getting to a point where college is about to end. They maybe have like 2, 3 years left of college and then it's real life. So what's next? And they come to me and they ask, "How did you find your purpose? How do you live the life that you really deserve?" And that's how I'm able to help them is by pointing them to to themselves, to their soul, because I believe that everyone here is for a reason at this particular time because just look at this entire universe is so huge. And for us to even just have this conversation right now, like how lucky are we to just be alive in this moment? And this is just, divine timing, divine path that there is no coincidence that we're having this conversation, right? Because this universe, I could be having a conversation on another planet with someone else, right? So it's no coincidence that these people have been brought into my life, and I think my purpose or one of my purposes is to help them discover their own purpose, because it's also no accident that they are here.